Many of the conflicts we argue about online don't begin with violence. They begin with pressure on land, on livelihoods, on identity, and with the stories that explain these pressures to the rest of the country. Long before a place becomes a headline, it has already been narrated, simplified, and judged. In this episode of the Delimi PROSPER Podcast, we take a moment to examine how media and storytelling go a long way to shape public understandings of conflict, especially where environmental stress, economic hardship, and identity issues intersect. In this podcast episode, we ask why complex pressures are so often reduced into us versus them, and what that means for conflict prevention. My guest is Leah Katung Babatunde, who is a senior broadcaster and policy communicator who has spent years translating economic and policy realities for national and international audiences. Leah Katung, drawing from that experience, reflects on media responsibility, youth participation in narrative spaces, as well as how more careful storytelling can lower temperatures rather than inflaming them. Leah Katung Babatunde is a Nigerian broadcaster, senior media professional, and policy communicator with over 2 decades of experience in media such as television, journalism, and public affairs. She spent 14 years with the Nigerian Television Authority, where she worked across news, business, and economic reporting, and anchored several programs focused on policy, markets, and public understanding. She has covered national and international policy forums, including the IMF and World Bank meetings, and has consistently worked at the intersection of media, livelihoods, and governance. Leah is also the founder of media platforms focused on business and market storytelling. Hailing from Kaduna, she brings both lived familiarity as well as an intense professional discipline to conversations around identity, resource pressures, and conflict, particularly how complex realities are translated, how they are simplified, or how they are distorted for mainstream audiences, and the consequences that this translation carries. Thank you. So, Leah, before journalism and broadcasting and your work in policy, I'd like us to start with landscapes. You know, the landscape of Kaduna itself, from the southern part of the state to Zaria, where you schooled, to the state capital itself, which is, Kaduna is one of the major cosmopolitan areas, you know.
As the headquarters of the North.
And headquarters of Northern Nigeria, yes. So what was it like for you when you were young, you know? What was it like? What did you hear about who belonged, who didn't belong? What was it all like back then?
Okay, I will start, by the way, I would say thank you for having me. And I was actually born and bred in Zaria.
Okay.
And so for a lot of persons, it's kind of unknown to them. But yes, I was born in Zaria. My dad was a soldier, so I was born at the depot there. But eventually, we have an interesting story because we moved from military life into the academic society. So he transitioned from military all the way to academic. So he began to lecture, and so we had that transition. And all the while, my life, we didn't have any sort of division, I would put it that way, because we knew that back in Gelesu, we could go to any house, for instance, and anyone was welcome to our house. And my dad had this culture of weekends mostly, as long as they don't go for any church outreach, they would cook and anybody can just come and eat. There was no barrier to that. Everyone was welcome to his dining table. And that's the kind of culture we grew up with. From primary school to secondary school, we were actually just moving without any prejudices, and it was just a good thing. In fact, we'll follow everybody. We all used to go to Kogi.
Yes. And come back with red eyes.
Yes, we're going to hide, and then when you tell people typically now they are going to Kogi, we know the kind of people you're talking about, but it didn't mean anything to us at that time. In fact, we had some of these boys who my dad felt they shouldn't be on the streets begging, and we had them come to work on the farm with us, because some of the Malams were, you can't be eating free food, go and help them to work.
Yeah.
So it was a community. But all of a sudden, by 92, personally I didn't know anything was going on. I was in primary 6, and we went to church that day, precisely May 17th, and then we came back home, and Dad wanted to visit some people. He just wanted to do a lot of things that day, and they were all over the place with my mom. And then my mom rushes in. I was sleeping on the couch. I can't forget that day. I was on the three-seat time. She came, she woke me up. She said, "Wake up, pick your younger ones and run."
Oh dear.
And I was confused. What was going on? You too? What was going on? She said, they want to kill your dad. It just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And she had to really hit me to wake me to reality. And that was going to be my first experience.
Wow.
Yes, that was going to be my first experience, because that was how we lost my dad.
Oh, wow.
And so it dawned on me that life is not actually what we presume it to be. And we were learning the hard way. We didn't get told by our parents. We experienced it ourselves.
Wow.
So that was it. And we moved. After a week, we moved for the funeral. And then I saw the other side of it. The whole of Southern Kaduna went wild. And from that day, I told myself that I would never, ever be part of any casket. Once you want to open a casket, I would not be there.
Yeah.
Because they opened my dad's casket for lying in state. That was enough to engineer the anger in people, and then a reprisal again started. The state had to be put under lock and key again. We were kids, but I knew that day very well. And they said, no more taking of corpses back home to bury them. Just bury them wherever they were killed.
Oh dear.
Moving on, I think from that time, it took us a while to adjust. But thankfully, my mom is someone who says you have to forgive people and you have to move on. And then, of course, we had to undergo a little... I grew up before I had a little counseling here and there, which is what, if we're looking in the present day now, a lot of people don't get that opportunity. So we got a lot of counseling here and there. Few missionaries were coming in. They wanted to just come and see the family, and because it was brutal.
Wow.
Then, if you look at this Kaduna city, as it were, it didn't get the Zaria kind of impact or the Birningwari kind of impact from 92. The Kaduna city, the heart of the city now, the central, the impact started at about 2000. When we started having the Sharia crisis. And then before you know what was happening, there was that dichotomy, that breach separated. And then we had the we versus them.
Yes.
I personally didn't like the we versus them kind of thing. So when I became a young lady who moved out of home and started working, I lived in Hayimbanki against all odds. I lived in Abakpa against all odds. I lived in Malali against all odds. And my last place where I lived in Kaduna before leaving was Kigo New Extension.
Wow.
So I, for a person, didn't believe in that. Why? Because a lot of the people who do these things are actually victims. So you cannot now keep transferring that. When you keep transferring the pain, the anguish, then it means it becomes a vicious circle. Everybody wants to revenge. Nobody is looking for a solution, and we don't get to heal properly that way.
Many young Nigerians only encounter conflict through headlines and on social media. When did you first realize that how a story is told can shape how people react to it? And of course, how did you first come to journalism, particularly broadcast journalism, where you have had such a massive impact and a very long career?
Okay, when people talk about crisis, I just look at it that a lot of people can never ever talk about another person's reality that they've not lived through, right? And so when you are talking about, hey, if you see the headlines now, hey, this just when you just try to just type Kaduna, run a Google search on it, or use any of the sound engines, type Sokoto, Kaduna, Jos. The only news that comes out of these places is crisis.
Yeah.
And so it's a negative trail.
Yeah.
Is it only bad that comes out of these places? Absolutely not. The good comes out of these places as well. So how do you put it out there? Yes, for a lot of people, you feel passionate that you need to tell your story. But when you're telling your story, there are the other elements of information management that comes in. For instance, what do you aim to achieve from that story? How do you aim to achieve it? Just the whole 5 W's and H of the basic communications also follow in all of this. Young people do a lot of cry on social media actually, but have never seen war, and have never seen crisis, and have never seen battle. And so I tell this in most of the newsrooms I go to. I've seen so much blood to a point that I don't think anything can scare me again. But it should not kill the human side of me. It should always help me to see the human in every other person. That is one way about it. And so, how did I get into all this? I think from my childhood, I knew I was going to be a talker. And so from primary school, they would ask us what you want to become in the future. They started to trap you. And I said, I knew I was going to be a talker. My teacher told me to go home and meet my dad and let's phrase it and get back with an appropriate answer the next morning. Mrs. Alkali, I was in primary 4. And my dad said, come, this is military regime. They will kill you. You cannot be a lawyer. You will die early. So he told my mom was, let her choose. He said, no, let her just be talking on TV. She'll be just casting the news. Of course, by the time I got to the secondary school, he wasn't there, but the foundation had been laid. So it was just to transfer the information. And I went to FGCSI, of course. So we had a very fantastic guidance and counseling department. And then Mr. Dabu ensured that what I came with was followed. He was running that department and he did a fantastic job with most of us. He's retired now, still alive, and we're all still in contact with him.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And so I followed up with the communication thing, took all my courses. I knew my courses, so I took them, concentrated on them from junior secondary school to senior secondary school. Wow. And we became that lucky set that wrote JAM while in secondary school and made it to university, even without WAEC. And then we had to start writing our WAEC to give us our results to enroll. And luckily, a lot of us passed that year. And so we went straight into the university. So yes, I studied mass comm first degree. Then the second degree was public administration, all from ABU. And it gave me the administrative understanding on how to run these things more than what we see at face value. So you get to understand things from different perspectives now, not just as a journalist, but as an administrator. And so we look into the kinds of information that goes out there. Unfortunately, a lot of have big journalism. The advent of social media has come to make everybody is now a clickbaiter. You just want to move, you just want to trend. And then somehow in the subconscious, people are more tilted towards the negative news than the positive ones. So yes, if you tell me today that they are rioting in Kaduna, they are burning and killing, it's going to make headlines. But guess what? If you tell me today that I put a story out there that says, oh, in this same Kaduna, 500 people are now millionaires that have been brought out of poverty, it will not make global headlines.
Yes.
So it means that nobody is doing this to us. There are all over the world, people are having their issues. We travel around, we see, but they don't make those things headlines. They don't make those things headlines. And I remember also, even in School of Journalism, that we were taught about regulating, not regulating tightly per se.
Yes, not censorship.
Yes. But then, you will always think country first. And I hope I'll get the opportunity to talk about this. When you think country first, your country starts from your immediate environment. It's from the home. And then your immediate society before the bigger country. So if the story you're putting out there is putting more fire in the home, there'll be no home in no time.
Yeah.
There'll be no home in no time. So yes, we can take both sides, but for God's sake, let's do the one that will let the country to prosper. Because if there's no country at all, we don't have anywhere where to run to. And so it's kind of concerning that we put more attention on these negative stories, and some just do it actually just for the vibes. But unfortunately, we have people out there who cannot differentiate what is just for the vibes and what is real, that should be taken seriously.
Yes.
And so you just, this thing. You find people who joke online and they'll call themselves, say, you killer ass man, but you know they're joking.
Yes.
But another person out there does not even see it that way.
He doesn't see it.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, you find people say, oh, you are a phobia. They'll just joke online and you know they are these ones have where they meet and they're pulling. But somebody from nowhere will pick it and make an issue out of it. Yes. So we need education. That's a problem, because not the kind of classroom education we have now, the kind of knowledge that is inside of you. I'm a Christian. The Bible says, get knowledge by all means, gain understanding. So it's not enough to just gain the knowledge. It's to gain the understanding.
Empathy,
of
context,
that knowledge.
nuance.
Yes, because the textbook knowledge is not working for us. We have to gain that understanding of how things work and how things should be. Unfortunately, we've left this into the hands of charlatans who come. They have the crowds, they have the followership. Some of them are community leaders, some of them are religious leaders, some of them are political leaders who just come and because they have the crowd to push. And then there's poverty.
Yes.
So because this person gives me my daily bread, I get from him. I know they will give me 1 or 2 charity, they will pay my kids' school fees. Whatever this person says is absolute.
The gospel.
It does not work that way.
In northern Nigeria, particularly, quite a number of the crises and the conflicts that we have begin around land, water, historical contestations, or livelihoods that are often reported as ethnic or religious crisis. In other words, they start as one thing and quickly become something far more complex and divisive. I would like to stay with the track of young people. For the young change makers, like the ones we are working with under this project, I'd like you to talk about what is lost when things are reduced to us versus them, when more complex issues are simply reduced to us versus them narratives.
Great. So I have a community from where I still operate till now.
Okay.
And that my community is my secondary school community.
Okay.
And because it's a federal school, so we come from everywhere.
Okay.
But I kid you not, today, if I say my head aches, everybody shows up.
Wow.
Yes. In fact, the closest person to me is a Fulani lady. She will show up first.
Oh.
So, different faiths, different tribes, but she would naturally show up first, and I'll do the same thing for her. We know ourselves on family levels. When you do the us versus them, it does no good to anybody. This is what it does. And I'll give a kind of simple example. If you go to the airport, do you look for who is the pilot before you fly?
Mm.
If you go to the hospital, or you're in the hospital, you need medical care, the emergency, do you start looking for who is that person?
You wouldn't.
In fact, if you want to watch the news and I'm the caster for the day, will you say, oh no, I'm going to wait for my own person to come and take her own bulletin for me to listen? So that's how absurd it is.
It is absurd.
Yes, it's actually that bad. Do you want to, it's just a whole lot. The clothes we wear, do we know who is printing them or who is sewing them or who is doing the yarning? So when you do the us versus them, it is a minus to a very, very large extent. Because here's the thing. You cannot be isolated even from the entire world. The world is a global village. Then you now come back home. And the us versus them is the typical kind of things we see in Africa. That is so easy for you as an African to import from China, from all the way Belarus and everywhere, than to import from Africa when you're doing business. This is how injurious it is to us as a people, that you're here and you're looking at it, okay, it's us versus us. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do business with this person. I don't want to eat this person's food. You're just wasting your time because you're wasting wealth. You're wasting goodwill. You're wasting development. You're wasting societal cohesion, and I can go on and on. Why? Today, somebody will pass this place, and then the person will see that there's a broken down tap. Ideally, you should call the authorities and say this place needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
That was how we were raised as kids. That's how we were raised. But you say, "Oh, I'm going to Sawani," you know, and then you just leave it. And then the other disgusting part is, "Oh, when Arenayeni." And you know, it does not help anyone because we're first human beings. And so if you look at it that way, that it does not help anybody, but it does more harm. And those who encourage these things are actually people who have other passports, or have access to other jurisdictions, or live in their high gated and very secured environments. And then you keep encouraging people out there to do these things. To do these things to their own detriment and not to you. So it cannot help the country to grow. Rather, it's going to shrink the kind of thinking that we do. It's going to take us more steps back. Because look at it, 30, 40 years ago, we had more cohesion.
Absolutely.
You could travel. In fact, night bus was a thing. As early as 20 years ago.
Yes.
It was a thing.
Yes.
But now you can't even try it. I mean, go and tell somebody from Fano to travel down south. For instance, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Even the daytime travel is an issue.
Yeah.
Not to talk of the night it travels. We had people wake up and say, "Oh, in fact, you wake up and decide, oh, I want to go and party in Zaria." Then you leave Kaduna and go down to Zaria.
Yeah.
Yes. And then all of a sudden, you discover that these things are not there again.
No, they are not.
And then we're not even seeing the bigger picture that we have killed that economy.
Yeah.
So people are poorer.
The quality of life is poorer.
Yeah. Decline in quality of life. Not because it was something that was meant to be, but it is happening because people have taken a backseat to allow charlatans determine how they live and what they do. Of course, so when you hand yourself to somebody, the person will do what he or she likes with it, not to your own advantage now, but to his or her own advantage.
Okay. Let's talk about young people and their challenges. Young people are often called the youth bulge in this context. And from a lot of research, they are being described as both the primary perpetrators and the primary victims of most conflicts across the world. Yet before the conflict, young people feel pressure, food prices, lack of jobs, the subtle effects of climate change. From the advantage of your career, why are these things rarely treated as warning signs of impending conflict? We always seem to rush into the conflict and we're surprised that we are there. But the conflict builds up. How is it that we are not able to arrest it before it becomes a full-blown conflict?
I think it's a systematic failure on our part as a country. Why? Because, as you've pointed out, the signs are always there. So, we already know that by the next few years, we're going to have the largest population in the world.
Yes.
For instance.
Yes.
We're already the largest black population in the world. We didn't just know that this was coming.
Yeah.
We didn't just know that Lake Chad was shrinking. We didn't just know that the desert was encroaching and is still encroaching. We didn't just know that there's something called climate change. And so this is it. People are increasing. The resources now, more interest in the resources are there. So for crying out loud, why don't we have programs? Why don't we have policy that are targeted at addressing these things? Let's not even go too far. I recall that there's been a whole lot of plans, the long term, the short term, and the medium term. So let me start from MAMSA. If you remember,
yes.
MAMSA.
Yes,
MAMSA was talking about the basic things of life: food, clothing, shelter, water, sanitation.
Yes.
Why are we still talking about these things after 40 years?
After 40 years.
It means that we have never bothered as a people to do stock taking. Where are we? How do we improve? And so the young people are out there, and the first thing, the few things we teach them is just go and bring money. Then the next thing we're teaching them is this is your enemy. The next thing we're teaching them is somebody doesn't like you. We are not even teaching them how to be independent.
And productive.
Yes. Productivity is at its lowest ebb. You can't tell me that for a country that has over 200 million people, we're still talking productivity. What is the best thing to do as a person? Find a problem and solve it. And you are good to go. So with all these problems we have, why are we waiting for outsiders to come and solve the problems for us? We say we're fighting over land, for instance, in my state. And yet we have large swaths of land in the hands of terrorists.
Yeah.
If those lands were being put to use, would those guys have gone there?
Exactly.
Research camp?
Exactly.
Secondary school will go for excursions. I remember, we had this book, NOEC in primary school, and there was the story of this family that went on tour around Nigeria. They went to Kainji Dam, and they stayed there. It was a resort and all that. Can you take your family to Kainji?
Kainji now.
So, here is it. We killed all those things without a replacement for them. If you say, okay, you want to be very religious, so you don't want this, you don't want that, what is the alternative? But we don't have the alternatives. So as long as the alternatives are not there, to now be back to the proverbial idle man is the devil's workshop. Because you've left them idle.
Yeah.
But I would say that we can still correct a lot of these things. Just dust a lot of these government programs all over the place. I can tell you an easy one. That will be all of the one local government, one product by slogan. And there's no local government in this country that I know of that we are going to point out and say they have lived to the fulfillment of that program. The local government system has even been in jeopardy for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
So if we don't get it at the basic level, there's no how we're going to. It's a governance issue. It's structural. So I have a local government chairman who is like a king. Nobody sees him or nobody sees her. And they don't do meetings. They don't look at me in my community to say, this is what
the young people don't know them.
So the young people don't even understand these things.
Yeah.
So if you didn't study government in school to understand how these systems work, you wouldn't even know who these people are or the roles they play. Just as a typical young person outside, who is your local government chairman? This AMAC we're in now, but many people know the local government chairman. Then you cannot imagine when you go to a place like Kaduna, who the local government chairman might not want to have anything to do with you except if you're in their party. Which is a totally wrong way of doing things.
Yeah.
In fact, if you get the basics to work, like the primary health, primary education, you will engage the youth. You will engage the youth. I always ask these questions. Why is it that we need to give contracts to say that we are fixing roads, for instance, to do renovation or whatever? We have public works departments. What are they doing? Why do we render them redundant? If we make them active, even from the local government level, they will do these little repairs. They'll fix the street lights. You don't have to come to federal government to fix a street light in Kwai. You don't have to come to the federal government to do a borehole somewhere in Zankan. When these things can be done at the local level, then you are now issuing contract from somebody to travel from somewhere, to move a truck, to go somewhere. Meanwhile, the youths are there. The farms that we talk about, this is January, going into February. Some of these farm implements will not reach those farmers until towards the end of the rainy season. And they'll be able to use them again. Like the improved seedlings, you have to buy them every year. So you're not giving me, for instance, you're giving me the maize seedlings in June. What will I be doing with it then? So we've made the farming so unattractive that the young people don't want to be there. Why can't the local government avail these young people with tractors to just move from this normal hoe and cutlass kind of farming? Why are we still farming at the subsistence level in 2026? So when we're talking these conflicts and the early warning signs, we've lived with these signs like forever. At least for the better time that I have, part of my life that I have known, these signs have been there. So if we don't address these signs, we're just doing the typical repeat, wash and set kind of thing. They will remain with us. Because for crying out loud, tell me why we're talking out of school children in 2026.
Yeah.
Right? In fact, talking about schools, we had the Safe Schools initiative from 2014, which is supposed to be rounding up now.
Yeah.
But somehow along the line, we thought as a country that we didn't need it again.
Yeah.
And now we've had in the last year
schools
students being abducted from their schools. Those were warning signs from 2014. That policy was put in place.
Yeah.
But we abandoned it. So as long as we don't attend to early warning signs, we don't address those issues, they'll fester. It's like a bad wound, right? They'll keep festering. They cancerous. So you don't treat, you don't do chemo, they just until they run out of course.
Yeah. So, do you think that economic and environmental stories are kept separate from security stories in Nigeria?
We treat them separately, but unfortunately, they're the same.
Yeah.
They're actually the same thing. So, you cannot talk environment without economy and security. The same way you cannot talk security without economy and the environmental arm of the society. They are the same thing. I tell people something that over time, I try to put out these conversations that when you're talking about policy, when you're talking about government policies to address issues, people will say, oh no, it's an economic issue. And I tell them, no, it's not. It is not. Everything under fiscal policy is everybody's issue because it is being funded by taxpayers' money. As long as you don't give it that kind of treatment, then you don't get that understanding. So in a typical newsroom setting, your editor should have his or her legs and arms on every beat. When you have your arms and legs in every beat, you'll be able to navigate them. And I tell people all the time that you should, by all means, get, even if it's a diploma in administration, it goes a long way. People think, oh, it's a course for losers. No, it goes a long way. You will now understand the linkages. Do you know, in School of Admin, we were treating courses on climate change, on environment, in School of Admin. So what are we saying? And I'm telling you this as far back as 2008. Somebody at that time saw it and made it part of
curriculum,
the study. And we came and met it. So can you tell me why a newsroom will separate environmental matters from economic matters? Will you separate mining and say it's environmental? No. It has to do with security.
Absolutely.
It has to do with economy. Look at all the sites we have crisis in Nigeria today.
Yeah.
There are active mining sites there.
Yes.
All the places from Kajuru to all the places in Chukum, to Igabi, to Kaura now, to Bednugwari, all those places have active mine sites. Jama, all those places. So it means that there's a correlation. So you cannot treat them in isolation. You need to treat them together. While we tackle security, which seems to have the bulk of the budget, we must also tackle these other things. Economy and environmental issues. If the environment is right and people know how to run the environment well, it's going to reduce some of these concerns. If it reduces some of these concerns, we'll not be talking conflict in the first place. So yes, we cannot treat them separate. They are together. They are interwoven. And when you look at the whole thing again, you see sometimes people say, oh, economic issues are just about markets and making money. It's way more than that. If you don't have access to a health facility, you're a poor man.
Absolutely. No matter how much money you have.
Yes. When the access is not there at that time that you need it, you're a poor man. You will realize that your money cannot buy you health. So, when we address these issues with a holistic kind of view, but unfortunately, in addressing these issues, you find that we're having, making it look like they are, sometimes government gives people offices like, we're compensating you for failing to win election. So when you're compensating failure, how do you expect something good to come out of it? Are you saying that in your system, you don't have those technocrats that know these things, or you cannot go and employ them to work for you, but you now go and look at some of these characters that run some of these offices. You can't get results from them.
They don't understand it.
So the young people who are working with them, who have the fresh ideas, and I say, let's do it this way, they become the enemies or the outcasts. You cannot keep treating a 2026 Nigeria with a 1960 manual and expect a working result. It can never happen. It can never happen. Which unfortunately is what we've been doing.
You've spent many years translating policy decisions, whether these are economic reforms, regulatory changes, development programs, translating them to the public, right? So what is the biggest gap you see between how policies are designed on the one hand and how they are understood on the other?
So, okay, since you've come to my space now, I'll just arrange my sitting. So you see, before you put out a policy, before you put out the decision, you need to do your homework first, which involves typically, what do you want to do? How do you want to achieve it? When you bring out that, is it doable? Who will drive it? How do we assess it? What is our feedback like? And the whole gamut of it. So typically what you find is we announce a policy and we want the policy to give itself life. And then we want it to give itself life. So sometimes I look at it, when you just announce this thing, so this thing will fail. Because there's no thought behind it. This thing will fail. I remember when we decided to shut down the economy during COVID. And my first question to the managers of the policy space at that time, when we were called that they were going to both fiscal and monetary policies, when they told us they were going to shut down the economy, and I asked them, what are your plans for the man and woman out there who live by the day?
Yeah, the grey economy.
And the whole place was quiet. I said, do you realize that a vulcanizer lives by the day?
Every day.
Do you realize that a driver lives by the day? The woman selling tomato, the man selling yam roadside, they live by the day?
Yeah. What
plan do you have for them? Except you have a plan for them, this is a disaster waiting to happen. And they will I said, no. And so I had to start first, okay, can we find a way to make delivery work? Can people get passes to deliver? So that logistics can move? Oh, that's a good one. So it means you didn't think of these things
in the first place.
To announce in the first place.
Yes.
You didn't think of it. Because if you thought of it, you would make all those arrangements. So those things started coming afterwards. In fact, they didn't even come afterwards until I started the Surviving COVID-19 series. And I said, look, we need to get these people to tell us their stories. How are they surviving? How are they surviving? And then you go to somebody's house, the person is sitting down with everything getting spoiled, and the woman is crying. I don't even know what to do. Look at all this. I'm just with them here. Instead of dashing neighbors, I don't know what to do. So we had to start putting out those stories of how these things were affecting people. And everybody picked interest in it. Oh, let's help them with money. Let's give them
transfers
so that they'll be able to do businesses. Let's give soft loans. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's give, to be able to let them move by the day. And so that disconnect in the policy space is something that has been on for. Do we have good policies on paper? Yes, we do. But workability, we don't have the workability. And as long as we don't have the workability, you will not find results. Just recently, it was late last year, until the Minister of Defense, the current Minister of Defense came, I remember vividly that a lot of us were asking questions. What is Nigeria's position on dealing with terrorists and bandits? Do we negotiate with them or do we not negotiate with them?
Yes.
Other countries have a straight position, but you can't have in the same government, somebody says, no, we'll approach them, let's negotiate with them. Then you have in the same government, somebody says, no, I'm not going to negotiate with them. In the same system, somebody will say, oh, we were the ones that traveled to go and bring Lakurawa from Mali to come and help us. How do you expect to have a working security system?
Yeah.
In the same government. So, no cohesion. Whatever that national plan is for every policy, the subnationals are to plug into it. Now, we have a Minister of Defense that says, no negotiations with terrorists. We have a state governor that wakes up to say, we have done X, Y, Z with them, and then we have, so that they can release some of those people, we have also released some of them who were arrested. We have given them freedom so that they will release some of those kidnapped victims. In the same government, all in the same party. You cannot achieve results that way. If there's a national policy decision, the ideal thing is the subnationals, the states, will plug into it. After that, the local governments will plug to the states.
Yeah.
That's how it's done.
Yeah.
So in a country where everybody is talking here and there, the policy space will get too cumbersome for it to work.
It can't be operated.
Yes, and if it can't work, then we're just being active and not yielding any results. I will give you another example. That example has to do with the tax laws. We have a National Tax Act, the NTA. The states have plugged into it through the joint tax boards. And then the local governments are forced to plug into it through their states. Whether you like it or not, states are doing all they can at their level. The willing states are doing all they can to get their people involved and to know what to do. I can speak of few states. I can tell you Imo State has done a lot. Ekiti State has done a lot. Oyo State has done a lot. Lagos State has also done a lot in getting their people plugged into it. Kaduna, they started last week to do their own grassroots awareness, and which all these things were all supposed to have been done since last year. Because that law was signed actually 6 months into last year. But they are starting late, yes. But their states are not even talking about it.
For which it hasn't even started.
So it means that nothing concerns them. Anything you want to do at the federal, just do it. It's none of our business. Then you now look at it and say, okay, what is Nigeria's single policy on this agriculture that is a problem for us?
For all of us.
Do we have it? Is it workable? How many states are doing or living up to expectations? We now created a livestock ministry that is over 2 years old. Have you heard anything about it?
No.
And that is the sector that is at the heart of the crisis in the country.
Yeah.
That is the sector that is heart of the crisis in the country. I would expect that before now, we're going to say, okay, we're still even arguing, do we ranch or do we do a grazing reserve? We're still arguing that. So at what point will we decide? We're already in an election year. At what point are we going to decide what to do about that ministry? People are drawing salaries from there.
Of course.
They are drawing budgets from there. including capital budgets. Can we see what they have done that is going to say, okay, this ministry was created and we have achieved XYZ from it because it is at the heart of conflict in the country?
Yeah.
But we have not. So the more it lingers, the more people will be carrying cows from Talata Mafara to Port Harcourt to Ugeli. And then we are having all manner of crises all over the place. Can you imagine now that people will wake up, carry cattle into people's farm and create content and put on TikTok?
Yeah.
So how crazy can people get?
Yeah.
And then there is no consequences for bad behavior.
Yeah.
And so they know because there's no consequences, they will get away with it, so they will keep doing it.
It's unfortunate. So my question is proactive. If we were to place young people at the heart of policy shaping work in Nigeria by making them more active and heard, how do we go about it?
I'll tell you how we go about it. We have young people across sectors. We must go back to a point I made earlier.
Okay.
We're not compensating failure.
Mm.
We're getting people to work. Don't tell me because this person is 35 years old and I need to compensate her father or his father. Then we'll say, okay, let's give the person this young person slot. We're only feeling quota. We as a people must disabuse that quota mentality in our heads. Now, the quota mentality is not only about federal jobs and education. It is also applicable in political appointments.
At the state levels?
At all levels.
Wow.
At all levels. We will not say, oh, these people work for the party for the election, so you will now carry one office that the person does not even know his left from his right, and then you give the person to continue misbehaving there and say he's representing us. He's not representing you. He's misrepresenting you. Or she is misrepresenting you. We have young people who have delivered all over the place with outstanding results. For God's sake, can we give them a space? And not only give them a space, can we allow them to thrive? Don't say because you gave me an office, you will now be running the office from the back. So I'm only the face of the office. Which in most instances, that is what we do. I'm only the face of the office. And so you're running the office at the back. The day I say, oh, I'm not going to do it the way you want, it now becomes a problem. And oh, you're still running your archaic manual in a 2026 era that will not work. In most instances, young people, like the Gen Zs we talk about today, they are on the fast lane. They have a way of doing things faster. Those of them that want to work, they have a way of delivering results faster than people of my generation, for instance. And we have the alphas that are upcoming now. These guys are tech savvy. These guys don't care about you. In fact, they don't even care about a government job if you sit down and have conversations with them. They are in their IT world. COVID changed everything for those guys. They are in their world, and that world, they love it. Do we have a plan for them already? Or would they come and then you tell them to wait for their turn? And you are still calling a 50-year-old man a youth. I don't think it is the right way to go about things. Young people can deliver. Young people can bring results. But please, not young people with the kind of mentality that we're trying to disabuse. We can identify them. We can find the incorruptible ones. We also have those who will give you results. And I don't see why we don't like to fire people in Nigeria. Yes. Because if you're not seeing results from me, 1-2 years, you should fire me.
Absolutely.
and bring in somebody who will give results according to what you give me.
Yeah.
I ask people most of the time if I go to their offices and we have to do policy conversations.
Yeah.
What is the mandate of your organization?
Mm.
They don't know.
Mm.
What are your missions, visions,
Mm.
and the aims of your office?
Mm.
What is the working principle of your office?
Mm.
They don't know.
Mm.
So from the point of entry, you don't know the mandate of the organization. What are you doing there?
You don't know how it fits into the larger government itself.
Yes. So if you don't know the mandate, what are you doing there? It will interest you to note that you will meet a counselor who does not know the mandate of his office.
Wow. Wow.
Yes. I will not mention names. Does not know the mandate of his office. That's if the office has one. So if you don't have a mandate, what are you working on?
Just marking time.
If I don't see that you are doing something after 2 years, I should fire you. If you don't see me doing it, you should fire me. That way other people will sit up. But we are always thinking about the next election. To us, everything is politics. We've corrupted the young ones into thinking that everything is politics. We cannot run the country like this. Do we have a Nigerian dream? Do we?
We really don't.
We don't.
We don't.
We don't. So, if as a child growing up, you don't have anything to aspire to as a country, what are we talking about? Those who are supposed to give their aspiration are doing the most of the negatives you can think of. You would not want your child to even look at some of those characters and say, these are my role models, for instance. So, the young person has nothing to look up to. You are looking up to say, okay, I'm just trying to also win the next election so that I can come back and oppress everybody the way this man is oppressing us. So once we don't
the
change
incentives are wrong.
Yes. Once we don't change that mindset, we will still be talking these things even in the next decade. If we don't work on that mindset to alter it, let the policy space work. Let the politicians plug into the policy space. The system is greater than the human being. The society works well when there are systems in place. But if we do these things selectively, or we do them at our own whims and caprices, it's not going to give us the kinds of results that we're looking for.
Okay. So young people have to be involved and they have to be incentivized. Absolutely. And they have to be motivated.
And they also have to demand and show responsibility that they can do it. And by the way, I became a news editor a news producer at 26.
Wow.
Yes. The youngest ever in Kaduna.
Wow.
Yes. Because there was a proven track record that it could be done. So anybody can do it.
You've anchored programs that bring diverse people, policymakers, economists, and citizens themselves into the same conversation, right? So my question is, what usually gets lost when policy debates move from expert spaces to the mainstream media? Well, what usually gets lost?
Okay, so what I find is that typical school of journalism does not teach you about the policy space. That is a lacuna.
Okay.
So if you don't learn it on your own, then you're cut off. That I found when I went to School of Administration at a very young age. And so you have to look for those things to fit you. And then up until now that some of us started making sure that these conversations are being had, you don't typically find even those in the policy space encouraging journalists to be part of the conversation. So you'll find that, okay, they invite you, we are going to do this training for so people, come and cover our opening and go. So the journalists will come, they will cover the opening ceremony and go, but they're not part of the conversation. So for me personally, the cameraman I used to work with, so we're always in those meeting rooms for over a decade. And so because I had spent so much time covering the Ministry of National Planning, so I was part of the national plans and everything that was done there. So once they finish, we'll go back and sit down and listen and take notes. So it was self-development for us. And when you now look at it, that we came to a point where nobody was bothered about, let's say, okay, this is how we're supposed to achieve these results, versus this is what is on ground that is not working. You actually find nobody in the room to say this is it. But as journalists who were sitting in the room with them, we now were able to say no, because we deal with the public. You can actually do this better, or you can actually do it this way, and you have a different result from this route you are going. It's like, oh, really? Yes. And so I now started receiving invitations to come and join roundtables and conversations. They would want to hear the journalist's perspective. I said, no, you don't need to pay, because I'm also receiving the knowledge, and we need to close that gap. So that gap is there. That gap is there. There's a whole lot of journalists out there who don't know the difference between policies. Like I ask a question, and I will always ask it. We have only two policies in the entire world. They are the monetary and the fiscal policies. Every other thing is plugged into the fiscal.
Into either of these.
Yes. And the monetary has to do with the central bank of any country at all. While the fiscal is anchored with the finance ministry, because that's where the budget is. And then everybody plugs into it. So if you can't differentiate these two as basic as they sound, then you cannot make the right input at all. And so it continues to be transferred from generation to generation, and then so the gap just remains there. But I think there's a whole lot that the School of Communication needs to do to address this. There's a whole lot that I am hoping that the communication structure
curriculum
that is being worked on and that is going to address these things, because if you don't differentiate them, you won't be able to. And of course, learning doesn't stop. So you just don't get one certificate and rest. You try to get others as well, so that you pick from here and you pick from there. And at least join one or two policy roundtables. There's a whole lot of them right now in the country. I've found myself in the ones on audit. I've found myself in the ones on investigation. I've found myself in the ones on budgeting, security, and what have you. I've also done a lot with the Economic Summit Group over the years, and so always sitting out for those summits, enter as much as possible those rooms and stay from the beginning to the end, because policy conversations are not the ones that you just come and talk one off and go. It's not about reading speeches. It's about championing societal change at the end of it all. And so you don't need to miss any part of the conversation at all.
Thank you. So let's move on to social media. How has social media changed the ethical landscape of journalism in Nigeria?
It has done a lot, and sadly, to admit, not on the positive side as such. And that is because for a lot of people, they consume information that when you, as an expert, tells them that this information is wrong in the first place. So they argue with you. So, but this person sent this person. Say yes. The space has shrunk to a point that the lines between misinformation and disinformation have blurred. And then you're now having also to deal with the advent of artificial intelligence, where
deepfakes.
Yes, where people are just wanting to pass information without thinking about the deeper implications. For you as a journalist who is being held onto accountability, there's a limit to the kinds of things that you're going to produce. And then we have the checks and balances, of course, with for we broadcasters in the NBC. When you put out something that is false or injurious, you deal with the regulators, while the press council deals with the print. But I tell people this: if you see something out there, verify from other media houses. Go to the media houses that have address, that you can see them, that are registered with CAC, and so they have a lot at stake. Look for them. Email. In fact, even if you don't know anybody, email them and ask them, one or two persons. We've seen this story at so place. Is it true? Can you verify? That's because, of course, some media houses will want to play safe. The journalists might have the story, but the media houses will not publish or will not allow for broadcast. So those kinds of stories, there's a way you can also verify them. But swallowing what you see from the social media, hook, line, and sinker, without verifying, will always land you in a mess. We've seen what is happening, for instance, in America with the Minnesota issues, and the young man put out his content on YouTube. It was now left for the everyday American to go and verify. So they were doing the verification themselves. They did not just carry the story hook, line, and sinker. But here we don't know what it means to verify. We don't. So you can just wake up and say, oh, this place is burning. And everybody responds to it. We don't know what it means to verify if such stories are true or not. At least, to an extent now, I can sleep a bit, because I think it was built up to the last elections that in the night my phone will ring till morning. We're hearing this crisis so place, and then I'll have to be calling. I'll call the villages. I'll message people. Is it true?
What's going on?
Do we call the security? Have you notified them? Is it at the local government level, or we need to escalate to the state level? So it was that kind of thing. So even if, of course, being a journalist, there are kinds of information that will pop up on your phone, whether you look for it or not. So yes, if anything about Kaduna comes up, it will pop up naturally on my phone. So the next thing to do is begin to start waking them up if they are asleep. This is what I'm saying. Is it true? Do we need to call for help? Can the state control it? Or do we need to escalate it to the federal level? Are you doing it at your level? We have these kinds of conversations. We don't need to rush to the media to actually start to social media to start posting this is happening. So back end, we do these things, and then it helps to tighten the news around those areas, if anything at all is happening, and then we're safer.
So, if media organizations took the environmental conflict nexus seriously, what would change first? Is it the headlines, the sources, or their priorities? How would the reporting change? And how would this affect the way journalism shapes public policy?
I think it's going to affect all of them. Firstly, the headlines. You said you talked about the headlines.
Yes, the sources that they rely on. Yes.
And the reporting.
Yes.
So let's start from the headlines.
Yes.
I think I've talked something that line already. When we see too much conflict
The reporting.
It doesn't do us well as a people. Once the headlines change, automatically the reporting will change. Typically, what a media house does is to have their house style. But when you have a house style, you build everything around it. Then there's also what we call agenda setting.
Okay.
Yes. So when I got into the policy space, without telling my organization anything, I know that when myself and my group of friends, the other colleagues, pick our agenda for the year, everything we do about it will always be part of every story we tell. Some years back, when Nigeria was talking financial inclusion, it was sounding very far away to a lot of people. But somehow we put it in the subconscious of every Nigerian.
By emphasizing it, by mentioning it.
Yes. If you come to the studio to discuss anything, even if you are discussing farm, we make sure that there's a question on financial inclusion. When we are discussing anywhere at all, or we go for any event, we'll make sure that there is that question on financial inclusion, and that story must be told. So that way, it was getting into the back of the mind of everyone.
Okay.
So when media houses do agenda setting, now people hardly set agenda for government, but there's a number of us that do agenda setting for governments. Nigeria first started from me.
Wow.
If you check my company profile, as soon as we registered it 2023, because Nigeria does not have a dream for anybody to look at. It's okay, we are building, we call it a small but impactful media house that operates on the principle of Nigeria first. And so no matter what you come to say on my show, if it's not going to help to build the country or awaken a kind of consciousness, already we're not going to have that conversation. Yes. So we now said, okay, you know what? Look for all these things. These things are there. They're just lying all over the place.
Solutions journalism.
Yes, look for all these things and let people be part of it. Why are we building houses, for instance, where in terms of emergency, there's no access?
Yeah.
So there's a whole lot of them out there.
Yes.
Why are we also saying, okay, let's do this policy, let's put that in place without thinking of the larger society? So when we started picking these things, people now started waking up to, oh, really? There's something like this? No, there's something like that. And I said, do you know we have an emergency response number, 112? Nigeria said, we don't know. I said, we do. Call it.
Call it.
When there's an accident, instead of running all over the place, call 112.
Yeah.
And road safety will come.
Yeah.
Call 112. Fire service will come. I said, before you say Nigeria is not working, try it.
Try it.
So somehow, people are getting into that conversation. We had this conversation 3 years ago. People started getting into the conversation. Really? Do we have something like that? I said, yes, there is. So the newsroom can't change the society the newsroom wants to. But now, everybody's looking to just sell stories. And the good stories.
Sell papers, clicks.
Yes. And so, sadly, when you sell solutions, you really don't make money out of it.
Yeah.
You have to now start looking and waiting on goodwill. Even the organizations that are benefiting from the solutions, they see you as somebody who is coming to bring solution that will not make them to spend money again. So they rather be spending money on problems that there will be budgets on it. But I tell people this. If you solve one problem, you will see another problem to solve. But if you keep padding one bad problem, you will pad the bad problem forever.
Yeah.
Now, let's look at this. Let's look at it this way. We had train incidences between Kaduna and Abuja within a couple of years. How many times? Until now that we speak, nobody has seen to put detectors on the track.
On the tracks.
We don't need anybody to tell us. Why are we still having to patronize the staff of the NRC to buy train tickets?
To buy train tickets.
These things can be solved. But we go to other countries, you have your train ticket, you can come back to Nigeria after a year, go back, you still use the same ticket. Highest you top it.
Yeah.
Nobody is saying that no, if you don't use it after 24 hours, you cannot use it again.
Yes,
or it's only valid for one trip. No.
Yeah.
So why can't we do these things? When we make it work, we spend less money on maintenance. And then we build trust in the system. When we build trust in the system, people are eager to invest in the system because it's working.
And it's certain.
Yes. But we're happy with it the way it is.
With the dysfunction. So, lastly, for young people who are consuming and producing content today, what single habit could help them avoid becoming part of conflict escalation without silencing themselves?
Verifying.
Verify.
Yes, you just cannot do enough of that. Verifying information. And once you also consume information, you now have to ask yourself inwards, what do I do with it? If it's true, what do I do with it? Should I be part of the problem or part of the solution? Do I escalate it or de-escalate it? And that is a fundamental for a lot of us. I tell people this all the time, and I don't stop saying it. If you have not seen what we have seen, may you not see it. May you not see it. I also tell people all the time, Nigeria has only one constitution, which has not changed. And that constitution makes everybody equal before the law. You don't, for any reason, trample on another person's rights. And you can't be more Nigerian than another person. We should build a system that upholds values, that upholds good behavior and punishes bad behavior, irrespective of who is doing it. If we do not punish bad behavior, irrespective of who is doing it, it becomes attractive for people to behave badly. That goes along with the kind of information we also consume as a people. I look forward to a day that people will think twice before they post. We've seen the social media law being used, unfortunately, as an instrument of state in this country instead of an instrument of correction and sanitizing the system. In other places where it is being used, we've seen how they use it. They use it to sanitize the system, not to harass,
censorship.
Not to harass those they feel they can harass. Because if you are harassing, for instance, citizens that have addresses, what are you doing about the ones who are eating people's animals and are content creators? What are you doing about the ones who are kidnapping victims and using them as content, and you are watching them collecting ransom money? What are you doing about them? So let the system punish bad behavior irrespective of who is doing it and how they are doing it. Also, let the system reward good behavior. We don't have a good reward system. Absolutely, we don't have a good reward system. We've seen people who whistleblow and then they end up being victims of the system. It shouldn't happen. Young people can use the social media responsibly, use it well. In fact, recently we saw someone advertise for a job on X and then says he's not taking somebody because of what the person has posted in the past online. And people say, oh, I said yes. Your social media presence is your mini CV. A lot of embassies will look into what you are posting online before they allow you into their jurisdiction. And if what you are posting does not align with their national aspiration, they will not let you into their space. Do we have a national aspiration? We do not have that national aspiration. We design national plans just to consume them today or to just fill space, not because we want to achieve results, because it does not look like we want to achieve results. If we want to achieve results, our national plan will accommodate everybody and everybody will be part of it. There's no ownership of it. So when a young person does not feel like he or she is part of the system, for God's sake, how will they contribute to it? I don't think that it's right that way. Let the young person see their lives beyond the social media. There's so much more out there for you to do, and you can achieve and do much more if given the space. Even if they don't give you the space, force yourself in. You just keep trying. Most of the people who we talk, serial entrepreneur, you just keep trying. You don't give up, and you don't allow your destiny into the hands of someone else. Do you have a plan for your own self as an individual now? You, as a young person, you need to have that personal plan. That your plan, you now plug it into the national plan. That is how it works. I started doing a personal plan proper for myself when I met one-on-one with Dr. Cosmos Maduka. And I moderated a session of young people that time, and he was one of the speakers. And after that, he had to call me. He said, look, the way you speak, I don't think you belong in civil service. You have to start planning your life. You say you can't cope, you'll not last there. You have to start planning your life and just get out of that place, because there's so much in you that we want young people to take, but they won't be able to access it once you remain in civil service. Move out of it. Let them see reason why to do things the way you are saying, and go around and talk to them. A lot of young people don't have those who they call mentors, who talk to them. Mentors in the real sense. A mentor is not somebody who will call you and give you money, which is the wrong notion we have now. A mentor is somebody, even if you don't have direct access to the person, you are seeing the person, you are following his or her footprints, and you are learning from the person, their mistakes, their gains, their losses. You wear them, and then you don't try to be better than them. But when you are sitting down and then you are looking at people, you say, this is the person you are following online. What value is that person bringing to your life? Is it something that you can take to any international gathering and it will sell? So if it's not going to sell, then you'd have to start looking for another person that you want to be reading and hearing from. That way, as a young person, you will do much. Are there good people on the social media? Absolutely. There's a whole lot of them. There's a bunch of them. But most young people don't want to follow those people who do most of the serious talking. You want to follow people who want to just do all the vibes and go out and there. You have to make the money to spend it. And Aliko Dangote or an Abdul Samad can afford to do all the flaunting now, because all over the years, they have worked for their money. Please don't look at them with this, but look at where they are coming from at your age, where they were, and then you start from there instead of starting from the Elumelu that everybody is looking at. When he was 30, where was he? What was he doing? Go and start from that place at your 30 years, not to start from where he is at 50 something. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Conflict rarely arrives without warning. It builds through pressure on land, on livelihoods, and on belonging, and through the stories that explain those pressures to the public. What we've heard today is that when complex realities are reduced to simple labels such as us against them, opportunities for prevention disappears. For young people, the task is not silence, but discernment. The very content you share, the headlines you trust, and the narratives you repeat shape whether tension, coming from all over, escalates or cools down. Environmental stress and economic hardship will continue to test communities. How we talk about them will determine whether they become shared challenges or lines for division. Peace is sustained through careful language, patient listening, and responsibility in public storytelling. Thank you.